Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and this video is brought to you through the EA Game Changers program because I was provided with early access to the brand new expansion pack Cottage Living, and today we're carrying on our Cottage Living hype, our Cottage Core / Lore expansion with the world and townie overview. Also, a reminder that this is an early build, and therefore if you notice spelling errors or if something is removed before the official release, please do not be surprised. Things can and probably will change before the actual release. First up, we have the world description. From the natural beauty of Cordelia Falls to the clear, brisk currents of the River Bagley, the mingling of earth and water makes Henford-on-Bagley a lovely place to visit, but perhaps an even lovelier place to live. Villagers here connect with the history of the land whilst finding relationship in the furry and feathery creatures that inhabit the woods. So what if the average neighbour is a little more gossipy? You wouldn't ask for a better place to grow, tend, and nurture a more natural life. This world actually comes with 12 lots in total. We actually have a rental, which obviously were introduced to the base game just before Snowy Escape. So we only have 2 actual commercial lots, and then the rest are just either empty or residential. So we start up in the Bramblewood. The natural beauty of these woods have long provided a picturesque place for many wild birds, rabbits, and foxes to call home. Whether secreting a small surprise under Sophie the Snail, bringing an easel to paint the serene Cordelia Falls, foraging for wild mushrooms, or finding romance among the ruins on the Isle of Volpe, I think that's how I pronounce it, any Sims would be transformed by a day in the Bramblewood. Bramblewood as a neighborhood is made up of 4 different lots, and one of them is actually a 50 by 40. It's a national park. One of them is 40 by 30, that's a residential. You also have a 30 by 20 residential, and then you have a 30 by 20 rental, which you can in fact just turn to a residential if you want, or bulldoze. However, it's one of my favorite houses because it kind of mixes like old school cottages with a very modern extension. So the 50 by 40 is actually the Isle of Volpe. I think that's how I pronounce it, park. Sorry if I get it wrong for the rest of this video. Located just across from the ruins on the Isle of Volpe, this park is the perfect start for any Bramblewood adventure. Then enjoy a meal at the grill, find or leave a present under Sophie the Snail, relax beside the serene Cordelia Falls, explore the ruins, charm the local wildlife, or go foraging here for wild mushrooms and berries. The only problem will be doing it all before the sun goes down. This also has the Wild Foxes Lot Challenge, so foxes will appear, but obviously you aren't really going to be gardening or anything on this lot, so I don't really know why it's applied, probably just to get to know foxes a little bit better. I honestly think this is the most pointless usage of a 50 by 40 lot. I'd honestly get rid of this and like put a farm there, because this is the biggest lot that we have in the Bramblewood, and really like it doesn't add anything. There's a picnic table and a pond. Next up is one of the 30 by 20s. This is a residential, and it is Cordelia's secret cottage. Those willing to make the hike up Cordelia Falls are rewarded with an enchanting secret. This isn't like in Mount Komorebi where you have to do like the mountain hike to retrieve a secret lot. You can just enter this lot from the get-go. There's basically a windy path up. Rumored to have secretly housed young royals on holiday, this small cottage is the perfect hideaway to enjoy nature, fish, and relax amidst the Bramblewood. I really like this lot. It's where I have my Sims live. There is the Wild Foxes and also the Simple Living Lot Challenge. So this lot requires ingredients to cook all recipes. Cooking with ingredients just makes the food taste better. Then we have another residential, which is actually the 40 by 30 lot, and this has a couple of pre-made Sims in it. You have Moody and Macmillan. After working an office job for more years than he'd care to admit, Derek found a man willing to live the rustic dream of his youth, and the two moved to his family cottage and never left. We love the MLM representation. We haven't had a man-loving man relationship since Cats and Dogs. We're not fending off financial offers from developers who see their home as prime target. Ian and Derek balance their days between adventure and quiet, depending on who's in charge of the agenda. Despite, or perhaps because of, their differences, time has been most kind to these elderly lovebirds. This old family home is buried deep in the Bramblewood, surrounded by the forest's furry and feathered inhabitants. Like a sturdy yew tree, it's a home that has stood the test of time with sturdy roots, decades of memories, and a few fresh additions as the years have passed. And finally, we have my personal favourite lot out of the Bramblewood, because I love how they've mixed the old with the new. I know these lots were built by Game Changers, I just haven't actually seen who was built by who. 13 Nettle Lane, which is the other 30 by 20, it's the rental lot. The perfect rental for any sim wanting to visit Henford-on-Bagley. 13 Nettle Lane combines the natural charms of the surrounding Bramblewood with the updated conveniences of a contemporary renovation. Enjoy exploring the ruins on the nearby Isle of Volpe, finding local wildlife in the yard, or heading down the road to Old New Henford's Community Garden or Finchwick's weekly fair. I will say, I think Bramblewood is actually the neighborhood that probably has the most to do, purely on like stuff to look at and also to interact with. You have the ruins, which technically aren't like usable, like they're ruins at the end of the day. You don't like throw parties like you can in Windenburg, but like mushrooms spawn there and other plants. You also have the creature keeper who you can go visit in Bramblewood. Also, the maze with Sophie the snail. You can go and leave stuff under her for people to find. You can find mushrooms. There's also loads of places to fish. You can find wild flocks of birds, like all along the riverbanks. However, it was also the place where I had my own personal Sims live, so it's probably the neighborhood that I saw the most, which is probably why I think there's so much to do. I just think the second neighborhood like has a pond and that's about it from what I saw. Moving on to Old New Henford, an area that boasts rolling hills, lush estates, and a small community garden. Old New Henford is perhaps best known for its historical naming woes. Initially known as Little Henford, the neighborhood renamed itself to New Henford in an attempt to escape its diminutive origins. However, in neglecting to inform national map makers, they ceased to officially exist for a 2-week period. When told that to be reinstated, they would require yet another name change. Residents chose Old New Henford, which beat out the other choice, New Henford, by a single vote. That sounds like it's based on an actual, like, English town. You know, we had Boaty McBoatface for a while. There's 3 residentials and then 1 completely empty lot. The 3 residentials, one's a 64 by 64, one's a 50 by 40, and then the last one is a 30 by 20, and then the empty lot is a 50 by 40. So definitely the area where you can build bigger farms and like make the most of the land. On the 64 by 64 residential, you have the Watson family, also known as the Trailer Sims, and they actually have a little bit of lore, which is quite nice to see. Inheriting the family estate was always the plan, but Thomas may be in over his head. For a man who equates success with crop size, you should never do that, mate. It's not all about the size. He's losing both his confidence and his family. Whilst his wife, Rami, loves the country air, her feelings for her husband are becoming stale and her affections have wandered. The oldest of their 3 children, Rashida, feels trapped, preferring to dream of a future outside Henford-on-Bagley, dreams that have sparked something between her and a kindred soul. The 2 youngest couldn't be more different. Imran treasures the security of life at home home, whilst Maria can be found bravely venturing out into the unknown. Will this hectic family come together or fall apart in their old new home? This is known as Old Mill Hill, the centerpiece of Old New Henford. This sizable estate sits perched at the top of Old Mill Hill and has been part of the Watson family for generations. There's almost too much land for one family to tend to, though the sprawling gardens and yard leaves plenty of room for growing a variety of crops and keeping a bevy of animals. I can imagine so many people are going to evict this family from their farm and claim it as their own. And then we have a new start. After living in the big city and having her heart broken, Cecilia decided to ditch everything she knew for a small garden plot and some chickens. She's still looking for someone to share this life with, though after a date she'd love to forget with the local creature keeper Michael Bell, she's happy to only form long-term attachments with the critters that visit for now. She actually does have a sentiment towards the creature keeper and like a relationship, which is quite nice to see. I will say the team have definitely started to step it up when it comes to lore. She lives at 4 Old Mill Lane, a fusion of Old New Henford's historic past and cool present. This old barn has been completely refurbished into a cottage home. Tucked privately between the edge of the Bramblewood and the River Bagley, a sim could easily forget that the rest of the world exists whilst in its quaint garden. Then right next door we have 3 Old Mill Lane, sitting riverside in Old New Henford. This sizable home boasts lots of land for growing. Whether a sim is looking to grow plants, animals, or their family, which is the 50 by 40 residential, and then next to that we have the empty lot, which is 2 Old Mill Lane. 2 Old Mill Lane is an empty plot of idyllic country land, lying in wait for any sim with a dream to transform it into the ideal home, again a 50 by 40. This is probably my least favourite neighbourhood. Yes, it does have one of the biggest lots, but there's just not a lot to do here, I've got to be honest. I definitely prefer Bramblewood in terms of like a residential area out in the countryside. And last but certainly not least, we have what I personally call the town square. It's definitely the village of this world. We have Finchwick. Nestled along the River Bagley, the old mill village of Finchwick prides itself on its bustling and close-knit community. Its historic square features a pub and quaint stalls amid a flowering garden, perfect for a little window shopping, which you can actually plan your outfits. It doesn't take money off you for planning your outfits, which I kind of wish it did. You can cheat it, I suppose, for realism. Tourists and locals alike flock to the weekly village fair, where Finchwick's mayor makes a special appearance to judge entries and gossip about the latest happenings. This is where you're going to pick up most of your errands. This is also where you will find the crumple bottoms because they have their garden stall, and also the grocery stall. So this is really where you're going to go if you want to interact with your community. Finchwick is made up of 2 30 by 20s, which one of them is a bar, one of them is a residential lot, 1 20 by 20, which again is a residential, and then 1 20 by 15. So definitely some of the smaller lots in the game, which makes sense because if you think about it, you're not really going to be doing too much farming here. You can probably fit like a coop or 2 on them. However, a barn is going to take up quite a lot of room, as are the planters. I'm sure you could have a couple at the back, but this is like the concreted area of this world. So first up we have the Gnome's Arms, which is the pub. Very realistic name for an English pub, might I ask. I was slightly disappointed that the floors didn't have carpet in them. Weatherspoons, where you at? I am definitely going to be changing that as soon as I get my hands on the actual copy of Cottage Living. This stone-built pub is the local hangout of choice around Finchwick, and it's not surprising to see folks from the entire surrounding Henford-on-Bagley area here. Head upstairs to watch a little football on the telly, or enjoy some delicious local fare at the bar downstairs. Either way, it's clear what makes this place a community favourite. Then I really like how the houses are spread here, because it literally feels like you're living on a little road. We have one cobble bottom street. Don't be scared away by the fact that this cozy but cluttered home has been on the market for longer than normal. It may suffer from what some have deemed an excess of character, but that only means it's simply waiting for the right sim to come and find it. A sim looking to live their one wild and precious life in the quaint village of Finchwick. Next door to that, we actually have a family. They are the Scotts. As owners of the Gnome's Arms, Finchwick's beloved pub, the Scotts are living the dream. Well, Sarah could be the one. Simon, a city boy with no more city around, still feels a bit awkward every time he runs into a chicken. Still, he's here to support his wife's dream. Will their hopes of adding a new member to the tiny family change things up for the better or worse? This cozy home sits in the heart of Finchwick and is steps away from the small village community hub. Though it can be a bit loud on fair days, there's no better place for a sim who wants to be part of it all. And then finally, next door to them, we have 5 Cobblebottom Street. This pragmatic village home is planted directly across Cobblebottom Street from Finchwick's garden walkways. So hard to say, making it the ideal place for a botanic-minded sim to settle down. I think in those botanical gardens, again, a little bit of a reach. There are 2 patches of ground that you can plant oversized crops, I guess, or whatever crops you want. And then I think there's 2 or 4 other little planters or bushes that are already planted that your sim can work on. Honestly, 12 lots isn't very much in terms of a world. However, I feel like it's what we used to when it comes to The Sims 4. And the fact that they're split equally between the neighborhoods is quite nice. I will say, I think what you want to do sort of dictates where you're gonna live. If you want to farm, then Old New Henford is probably best for you because it's where you're gonna get the most bang for your buck when it comes to having farms and also decent areas to actually grow your crops, whereas the Bramblewood is great if you're into foraging and finding those plants that are related to Henford-on-Bagley. Whereas personally, I think I'd turn the residentials that are in Finchwick actually into some more community lots. I just think it makes a bit more sense. I don't really see a lot of people living there because you're not really gonna get the full effect of this pack when you can't even put an animal shed down on those lots because they are so small. So that feels like a bit of a weird choice, but it makes sense when you also think about typical English villages, and usually the houses and the cottages aren't very big. They're small areas. They were built a long time ago before we had cars or anything like that, so it is very typical to the English countryside. I will say I do think it's a very pretty world. It is very countrified, but also a little bit foresty the higher you go up into the hills, which also makes sense. I think a couple of the lots are useless. For example, the park. I don't really know why they chose to go for a park on that one, but very easy to fix. I will say I'm a big fan of the townies and the lore that comes with it. I think this is actually some of the best lore that we've seen out of any pack, and I can only hope that's going to continue in future packs, so prop to the team for that. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know who your favorite townies are, where you think you're gonna move your Sims into, what you think about Henford-on-Bagley, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Also, thank you once again to EA for providing me with early access. I appreciate you all so much. Take care of yourselves. Speak to you all in Create a Sim. How exciting.